Blood calls for blood, and I've always had it in my mouth. I was born twice. The first time, I only remember fragments. Screams, flames, the stench of burning flesh, and a cold hand picking me up from the mud. The second was the day I realized everything had been a lie. Vlad was no father. Isabeau was no mother. I was just livestock, a prized breed, fed on blood and illusions. 13 years. 13 fucking years. You don't die for God, or the devil. The hunters found me in 1584, between two mass graves, somewhere in the forests of Moravia. I was alone, emaciated, feverish, haunted by nightmares I couldn't understand. I couldn't remember the last time I had eaten. Steel and fire had sunk so deep into my flesh that pain had become a silent companion. I was a lost child, but I knew how to kill. They should have put me down right there, like a sick dog. But one man stepped forward, looking at me with icy curiosity. His name was Reinhardt, a former mercenary, a masterless executioner, one of those men who hunt monsters because they've lost everything human in themselves. He offered me his hand, and in my fucking naivety, I took it. The training began, and by training, I mean hunger, pain, cold. A filthy camp in the ruins of a forgotten monastery, somewhere between the Carpathians and the marshes of Palesia. Men with faces marked by wars that existed in no history books. They didn't talk to me. They threw me a piece of stale bread and left me to freeze. If I wanted to learn, it was up to me to hold on. I had to run barefoot on ice until my feet bled and my bones threatened to break. I had to hold a drawn bow until my muscles burned and my fingers could no longer close. I had to hit again and again until my knuckles split. They explained nothing. They threw me against the wall and made me get back up. Every night, my dreams were filled with beasts with white fangs, with hissing shadows. I learned to survive the way a beaten dog learns to stop whining. The youngest died fast, some from exhaustion, others in the fights they forced us into. Tests, they called them. They threw us into underground tunnels, caves infested with shadows and creatures that never slept. Screams echoed through the stone before fading into silence. I held on, not out of bravery, not out of rage, just instinct. Just that damned fear of dying alone in the dark. But something was growing inside me. A quiet anger, a slow poison seeping into my bones. Not raw, blind hatred. More like a tension, a doubt eating away at me. Why had I survived when others collapsed? Why did some wounds heal faster than others? Why some nights did the taste of blood haunt me for no reason? My first hunt was in 1587. A creature had holed up in an inn in Krakow, feeding on guests like cattle in their sleep. I followed Reinhardt and the others, my heart pounding so hard, I thought it would burst. When the door swung open, I didn't think. I saw red eyes, a mouth twisted by hunger. I struck, again and again. My fingers gripped a stake, driving it in without understanding. Black blood splattered my face. I felt its hand on my throat, squeezing, squeezing. And then silence. Someone else had finished the job. I was on the ground, gasping, trembling. That was the first time I saw my own reflection in a pool of blood, and what I saw terrified me. The years passed, and the hunts became more frequent. The night was no longer an abyss of the unknown, but a territory to be tamed. I learned to track, to hide in the shadows, to strike at the precise moment the prey realized they had never stood a chance. I learned to kill coldly, without hesitation. And yet, each time I faced one of those monsters, a strange feeling twisted my gut, like recognition, like something familiar lurking in their gaze. Until 1595. It was war. Another one. One of those absurd conflicts between kings that we hunters used as a cover for our real battle. Armies clashed on the borders of Prussia and Transylvania, and we, in the shadows, cut down those who hid among the corpses. But that night, it wasn't an ordinary vampire. It was him, Vlad. Seeing him there, in that night soaked in blood and ashes, unearthed everything I had buried. Not just the betrayal. Something older. A loss. An absence. He hadn't been my executioner. He hadn't been the one who had imprisoned me. But he had been powerless, incapable of protecting me from Isabeau, of seeing what she had done to me. That was the deepest wound. He wasn't the one who had hurt me, but he hadn't stopped me from being broken. I looked at him, and I no longer knew who the enemy was. And that was worse than hate.